Travel Tidbits podcast, hosted by the agents of Pineapple Escapes. Join us as we discuss the latest in travel news, destinations, and tips for the savvy traveler. After all, travel makes life sweeter.
Hello and welcome to the Travel Tidbits podcast. I'm Celina Coker, your host for episode 31, Universal for Potter Nerds, Part 2. Joining me again today are my friends and co-agents, Sharon Sparrow. Did I pronounce that correctly, Sharon?
It's Sproul. It works. Yep.
Okay, thanks. Nicole Arden and our Pineapple in Chief, Jamie Weidel. Hello, ladies.
Hi.
Thanks for coming back.
Hello.
Thanks for coming back to continue our discussion about our obsession with the Wizarding World of Harry Potter. Like one of Madame Trelawney's prophecies, Sharon had the foresight to know we would need 2 full episodes to really get into this nerd fest. If you missed part 1, please be sure to listen to that one as well. So let's get started with the At the Core segment. In the previous episode, we explored Diagon Alley in Universal Studios. Universal Orlando Resort has 2 main theme parks, not including their water park. Each of those 2 parks has a different side of the Wizarding World of Harry Potter, which are connected by the Hogwarts Express. Be sure to get a park-to-park ticket if you want to take a ride on the Hogwarts Express. Highly recommend it. Diagon Alley is in the Universal Studios Park, while Hogsmeade is in Islands of Adventure. Today, we are focusing on Hogsmeade. For those of you that are not familiar with Hogsmeade, first of all, what are you doing listening to this podcast? Just kidding. Hopefully, if you are not already a fan, you will be after listening to these podcasts. Hogsmeade is the neighboring village next to Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. Harry and his friends go to Hogsmeade to enjoy butterbeer at the Three Broomsticks, plot against the Dark Lord, and play pranks in Harry's invisible cloak, among other things. Ladies, let's paint a picture, if you will, for our listeners that have not yet been to the Wizarding World. Let's describe this charming little village a little bit. For me, it's not quite as overwhelming as Diagon Alley because the shops are more quaint and uniform in style. What do you think?
So I think it is cute. So when you walk into the village, you'll notice that there's snow on the roofs. And when you go during the summer, at least in my opinion, it may be a little hard to picture that you are in this village in the winter time where there's snow. But I have to tell you, when I was there this past February, and I believe we mentioned this in the previous episode, it was so cold we had to buy gloves. And all of a sudden, Hogsmeade really came to life because we're here all bundled up. It was freezing. And now there's snow on the roofs. And it just seemed like it was the perfect setting. Now, does that mean you should go in February versus July? Well, I mean, that's really going to be up to your family and when you can travel. But it just was the first time that I felt, okay, this is really in the setting. It's winter, even though we're in Florida. It was unseasonably cold. And now we are stepping into the Wizarding World where there should be snow on the ground. And it was just very charming and quaint, and just in my opinion.
I agree. It does something to your brain when you go in July heat and you see snow on the roof and you're like, okay, it's beautiful. The Hogwarts castle is stunning. And we'll talk about that more when we talk about the ride. But I love it. I think you're right, Celina, it is less overwhelming because it just feels like kind of just a small town. And you really wouldn't know. I mean, if you're not a huge fan of Harry Potter, which everybody should be, in my opinion, but if you're not, you're still going to enjoy it. I feel like it's very beautiful. Everything, the castle itself, and then just the little town is really beautiful.
Yes, exactly. And that castle, oh my gosh, it's like the centerpiece of Hogsmeade. It is their flagship ride. This is it. So let's get into the attractions a little bit. Let's start with Hogwarts Castle and the Forbidden Journey ride. Oh my gosh. I love this ride so much, but I think more than the ride itself, I love the queue, just walking through.
Yes.
Now, for those of you who haven't been, you can actually just walk through the castle. You can go through the queue, even if you don't want to ride the rides. You can just let them know that you don't want to ride, and they'll show you the path to go. But don't miss out on this. If you are not comfortable with going on the ride, you must go through this castle. It is so detailed, so amazing. I mean, what do you guys think? Do you have a special part that you like the most?
It's my favorite part of Hogsmeade is the castle walking through. And it is, I do have to put a disclaimer. It is probably the most, if you are prone to motion sickness, that ride especially will get you. Yeah, you need to just be
Fake Dramamine.
I'm just warning my fellow. Yes, I get so sick. I can't even swing on a swing set. I get so sick, but I have to ride the ride at least once when I go. So I come prepared and I take some Dramamine. But it is, I have to do it every time just because I love the queue. I have to walk through the queue and I have to go through the ride. And it's my son's favorite ride of all of Universal. And I'm like, well, you rode Hagrid? But anyways, he loves that ride. And so I'm not going to I don't want to give away anything, but he loves, I guess, feeling like he's in the movie. And that's one of the things he loves most about that ride. And I think one of the things I love most as well is the queue. And you just, like you said, it's so detailed. It's like you're in the actual castle.
Yeah, so I think, like we were talking about the castle, the outside, and at times I feel like when we're on the outside, we're like a Cornish pixie that has been stunned and we just don't want to leave because the outside is so breathtaking. It's so magical. But when you go in, you are a Hogwarts student, whether you're a kid and you're a current student or whether you're an adult and you're an alumni, going through it just it brings memories that we just never really even had to start with, other than our memories from reading the books, or if you haven't read the books, the movies. And it just brings those rooms that you would find in Hogwarts Castle alive.
It's very visual. It's from start to finish, it's very visual and you feel like you are part of that experience. And I think that's why I love it so much.
I think that that's one of the neat parts about the actual attraction, though, is that it does bring in so many pieces from the books. Like, you feel like you're playing Quidditch, and that's part of what makes you kind of feel motion sick because of the way that the attraction kind of shifts and shimmies. And like the spiders and the Dementor, like they put so much detail throughout, not just the queue, but the actual attraction too. Yes. I love all of those pieces of the ride. And it makes it worth it for me too. I also get motion sick. But it's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah, we've even got Jamie on from time to time because she's like, okay, do you know what? I've taken medicine. I love this. I'm going. She has at times been like, there's no way. We've already done enough roller coasters today. I'm not stepping foot. But hey, we have been known to get Jamie on this.
Yeah, it is true. It is true.
And for those of you that have not been able to visit Hogwarts Castle yet. So part of the queue when you're walking through, you're going to go through the herbology class. You're going to go through the Defense of the Dark Arts classroom. You're going to go through Dumbledore's office. You're going to see the moving pictures. There's so much there. And even you'll see the three main characters, Harry, Ron, and Hermione. They become part of the story even in the queue before you get on the actual ride. There's so much to enjoy. So again, I know we mentioned this in the last episode. If you've got a fast pass and you can skip the line and not go through that queue, just make sure that you at least go through it once. You would be doing yourself a disservice if you don't. All right. So the next attraction that I wanted to talk about is right when you come out of right off the Forbidden Journey ride. You go through the little shop and then you come out on the side of the castle where you'll find the Flight of the Hippogriff ride. This is, I call it like a junior roller coaster. It's like a family friendly. It's not big. My 5-year-old is one of her favorites. I mean, she loves all roller coasters. She's a thrill seeker, but she really loved this one. We did it several times back to back. And when you're on it, you can see Hagrid's cottage. You can see Buckbeak sitting there perched up in his nest, watching you as you're learning to fly on a hippogriff. And also, in my opinion, I feel like when you get on that ride, you get to see this beautiful view of the entire Hogsmeade area. For me, I think it's one of the best views in the park. So we definitely enjoyed that one. Is that a favorite for anybody?
I guess I would just say that one's really short. So it's only about 30 seconds long total. So
Right. Yeah.
if the
And the
line
queue
is
is
extremely
very
long.
Yeah, I mean, just to get to the ride is so long, and you walked all this way, and then it's like 30 seconds, and you're done. It's just, I don't know. I'm always a little.
Yeah.
I always want to ride, and I'm always disappointed at the end. I don't know. I guess glutton for punishment. Who knows?
Yeah. That's one of those for me personally. Just if it's got a short queue, I'll get on because, like Celina said, it has. I like the views mostly, but it's not one that I'm going to wait a long time to ride.
Yeah.
So, for me, it's a one and done. But my son liked it. And he's like, "Can I go on?" And I was like, "Yeah, you can go on." And he's like, "I was like, you can go by yourself if you want." And he's like, "Okay." So he rode that, a couple times back to back, and he really liked it.
Mm-hmm. It is fun, but yeah, I think the length of it goes along with it being what I consider a junior roller coaster. It's just a short little fun thing to do. It's definitely not going to be your highlight of this park by any means. But speaking of one of the highlights in this park, let's move on to Hagrid's Magical Creatures Motorbike Adventure. I know you guys have some things to say about this one.
This roller
It's
coaster
amazing.
is so fantastic. And I'm not a roller coaster. Well, okay, I say I'm not a roller coaster rider. I guess this is my year to ride roller
Sharon,
coasters.
You are.
you were nervous and you got on that thing. After you got off the first time, you're like, let's do it again right now.
Yes. So, this is one. I was so excited about it because I was so excited for my roller coaster clients. Like, this is it. I mean, we're talking about 7 total launches, the most of any roller coaster in the world, a free fall vertical drop that's nearly 17 feet, which is the first roller coaster in the United States to feature, nearly a mile long in length. I mean, and then on top of that, you have enchanted motorcycles. So you can either choose to be a motorcycle rider or a sidecar rider. I mean, this is every Harry Potter fan's dream right here. You're flying deep into the Forbidden Forest. You're going to encounter some of the rarest Wizarding World magical creatures. I mean, this is it. And I was not going to ride it. Like, that was it. I was not. Everybody was saying, well, how are you
Until we
selling
peer
this to
pressured
your
her.
clients? And I'm like, I'll listen to you all. I'll come with the family. I'll listen to my boys, yada, yada, yada. Until we're there last November on the VIP tour. And you all have heard us say before, the Pineapple Escapes agents were terrible when it comes to peer pressure for each other. Like, do as we do. I mean, do as we say, not as we do kind of thing. And there I go. I am on this roller coaster. And when we get to the end, I'm screaming, can we please do this again? It was fantastic. I loved it.
It was amazing. Hands
Yes.
down, my favorite ride.
I will peer
By far.
pressure anybody to get on that ride.
Yes.
It is one to be experienced. And it is, I mean, I don't care how scared you are. It's not like the Hulk. You're not going really high. Everybody's got to experience it. You just got to. So
Yeah.
good.
And listen, it's a different experience if you are in the sidecar versus on the motorbike.
Absolutely.
It is a huge difference. And I think most of us, when we went through, we did twice back to back. Now, listen, the only way you could do that right now is if you are on a VIP tour, because the line is excessively long. And as far as I'm aware right now, you cannot use an express pass. Is that still correct?
That's correct.
Correct. Now, if you are a child doing child swap, so we had, when we went, it was my husband and I and my he was then 8-year-old and then he was 1-year-old. So we had to do child swap with him because the 1-year-old obviously couldn't get on. So my 8-year-old got to go on with, my husband went with him. And then when I got to do, when we swapped, he got to go on again with me. So he got to go on that ride back to back. Yes.
That's right.
It's kind of a little trick. If your kid wants to ride it back to back, do child swap, because it'll give them the opportunity. So he rode that ride. He rode every ride just twice because, we had to do the child swap, and he loved it. Everybody loved it. It's a great ride. Everybody should ride it.
And Celina, you are so right. Like the motorcycle and the sidecar is totally different. Like I have done both, and I prefer the sidecar. I sort of like to be safe and secure, bundled into the seat. But if you are one that you're like, just put me in the minimum restraints possible and let me go flying through, well, then the motorcycle is definitely for you. I also think one of the reasons I didn't like the motorcycle is I'm only 5'2", so I'm on the shorter side of life, and I didn't feel like I could really grab the handlebars as well. Maybe because of my height, I don't know. It just didn't feel like I could. I didn't feel as comfortable, truly riding the motorcycle that I would have liked. So,
understandable. And I think that's why they maybe provide those two options. I'm not much taller than you. I'm only 5'4", and I will take the motorbike every single time. Oh my gosh, you guys. It feels like you are literally riding a motorbike through the air.
And it sounds like it. It sounds like an actual gas powered.
Yes. Yes.
So much better than I expected. All right. So, hot tip, get yourself on Hagrid's Magical Creatures motorbike adventure as soon as possible, because you will be so glad that you did.
Yes, absolutely. And any travel agent, that you book with, of course, we're hoping that you're booking with Pineapple Escapes. You're here listening to our podcast. We're going to help give you tips so that you can, or to give you the best chance to ride it. This is one of the rides that does work off of the virtual queue. Universal does have this new virtual queue system, and, we'll be there to help you figure all of this out and give you those tips and tricks so that hopefully you can ride it when you are on your Universal trip.
Exactly. All right. I think that pretty much, those are the three main attractions there in Hogsmeade. Obviously, there's the Hogwarts Express as well. We went into more detail in part 1 in our last episode about the Hogwarts Express. Just know that when you get on there, you absolutely must have a park-to-park ticket if you want to ride the Hogwarts Express, and it's 1,000% worth it. Each way, each direction is a different story. It's a different situation, and both completely awesome. So make sure if you're a Harry Potter fan, you have to have a park ticket and ride the Hogwarts Express. Absolutely. One other little thing that I wanted to mention to you guys that I think is super fun, in the bathrooms, you can actually hear Moaning Myrtle. I can't remember. What did she say in there?
I don't know. I just remember it scared me. I didn't know that she did that. And I was like, you hear kind of do her little giggle, and I'm like, what?
Yes.
We just have rewatched. We started again watching the movies because this is what my family does. And we just watched the second movie again. And that's the one where she's one of the main characters with the Chamber of Secrets and all of that. And it's just amazing the details that they have picked up on, even in the bathroom. And you do have to definitely listen for her. But even some of the details in the bathroom are very much like what was in the movie. So that's definitely something to look at.
So much detail. They really went all out when they designed this park. It's incredible, start to finish. All right, guys, let's talk about food. I think we can skip the butterbeer section of this discussion because
no butterbeer discussion.
Come on, we talked about it for 10 minutes in the last episode. So
so yummy.
Listen, you guys, butterbeer is life. It's you have to have multiple a day when you're there.
Yes. Yes.
So there's really just the one quick service dining option there in Hogsmeade, which is the 3 broomsticks. Have you all eaten there?
Oh, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. because it's like you said, it's really the only dining available in Hogsmeade. So yes, and they do the mobile ordering now there too. So, but you can like Sharon said last time, you can also go up to the cashier and order as well.
Right.
So
This is quick service. So yes, you can definitely do that.
Yep.
And then it's got the Hogshead attached to it as well.
That's right. And I think we mentioned in the part one, I mean, the Three Broomsticks, it does have some British fare to it. I mean, if you want fish and chips, absolutely get it from the Three Broomsticks or even the Leaky Cauldron over in Diagon Alley. But you'll find the Three Broomsticks is not so British heavy as far as your food selection. So if you have some picky eaters and you're debating which restaurant to eat at, the Three Broomsticks probably is going to be the better option for you. But it is so yummy. I mean, and the setting is just fabulous. If you go in high season, you know, you will probably experience a little bit of a line to get into there. So think about possibly eating early, like go eat lunch at 11 o'clock or maybe even a late lunch at 2 o'clock. Think about those instead of going during that high lunch time. But even then, when we were there in April, we did not time it well. We knew we weren't going to. We were having fun riding rides and everything. And so we decided to wait in line, and still it moved really fast. Like we did not have to wait in line long. It seemed like we were going to have to, based off of the way they had the line go through Hogsmeade because of COVID standards and stuff, but it really moved fast. We were not there long, and we were there with 6 kids. So the fact that we were standing in line with 6 kids, you know how kids can get when they're hungry. It wasn't that big of a deal.
I think that one of the things with Three Broomsticks too, like Sharon said, is there is a little bit more variety. So like the kids menu at Three Broomsticks has chicken fingers, it has mac and cheese. My Anna is super picky, so this is a big deal for us when we're choosing a restaurant, is there has to be things that she will eat. But there are fish and chips, there is shepherd's pie, there is, more British type soups and salad combos. So there's lots of different options, and it's a little bit more robust than on the other side.
My 5-year-old had the ribs. She devoured them.
Good for her. Yay.
Yeah. I mean, you wouldn't expect some good ribs from a quick service restaurant in a theme park, but my goodness, they were yummy.
Well, and that goes for any of the quick service restaurants, in my opinion, at Universal. I feel like they're just all really good. And that, I mean, listen, if you're there, definitely go eat in the Wizarding World. It is top notch, but yes, the food at Universal is so delicious, but that is definitely for another podcast episode.
Exactly. So right next to, actually, it's kind of a part of Three Broomsticks is the Hogshead Tavern, where you can go in and get your butter beers, your pumpkin juice, any of the Harry Potter craft beers there. If you just need a little drink to cool down, this is a great place to go in and get that. So and it's decorated pretty cool too. I think that's the aesthetic there is pretty nice inside Three Broomsticks and Hogshead. They've done a great job, as they always do.
One thing to mention is there are like drink stations and carts out for butterbeer basically in Hogsmeade. But usually if you go into the tavern, the line is a little bit shorter and it's air conditioned in there. So that's something to kind of remember if you're ready for a butterbeer, instead of waiting in lines outdoors in the heat. Go inside. Usually the line's shorter and it's cooler.
And it's right next to the restroom.
Yes, it is.
All right, guys, let's talk about the shows. Do you guys have a favorite show?
So I think my favorite is the Hogwarts Frog Choir. And I'm not sure why, other than it just is something about walking through Hogsmeade, hearing the frog choir. I don't necessarily stand and watch the show all the time. I have done it, so I do have that experience. But just walking through Hogsmeade, hearing the frog choir, and I mean, they have their frogs, and the frogs are definitely croaking, and they are singing beautifully. And it just is, again, brings you to that school atmosphere that's going on. It's really great. But the Triwizard Spirit Rally is good as well too. I don't know. Nikki, have you seen that one?
Honestly, I have not. I haven't seen any of the shows in Hogsmeade because I'm too busy writing the rides.
I can't blame you. So yeah, I mean, well, listen,
or doing the wands, doing the
Right.
magic of the wands.
There is so
Yeah.
much to do.
There
Yeah, you can't
is.
do it all.
I mean, and like
There
I said in part 1, I haven't seen really any of the shows in Diagon Alley, but I have seen the 2 over in Hogsmeade. But to be fair, that is because I saw them before Diagon Alley even existed at Universal. Robert and I just went because, hey, we are Potter nerds. That's what you do. And so we did actually watch
Right.
both of them. And the Tri-Wizard Spirit Rally is really fun too. But my favorite of the 2 is definitely the Frog Choir.
My favorite's the Tri-Wizard Spirit Rally.
Really?
I really like to watch I really like to watch the ladies, the Beauxbatons do their, I like them both. I mean,
And ladies are
you've got
gorgeous, so
the Beauxbatons.
Yeah.
Yes. They're so poised, and I don't know. I just enjoy their little number, and then the guys come out there. It's just like the complete opposite of the Beauxbatons. It's just, I don't know. It's fun to watch. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
That's actually my favorite movie.
Yeah,
So.
I've always thought the Tri-Wizard tournament would actually make a fun ride too. Like maybe there's
Well,
some
they used
property,
to. The Dragon Challenge where
Well, that's true.
the
yes.
motorbike.
Yeah.
Did you guys ever ride that?
I did
Yes.
not ride that. So
Yes, it was actually a fun ride. And back in the day, there was because it was different, whichever dragon you chose to ride.
2 separate coasters, based on the dragon. I never got to ride it. I know my husband and we went back in 2011, I think. And we were in the queue, which was really cute. I love the way it was set up. And you're I remember there being a section where you're in the tent at the Tri-Wizard tournament before they go out and, go up against the dragons. But something happened to the ride. They had to shut it down for a little bit, and we just left and never got to ride it. But wish we had.
yeah, and I mean, like Nikki said, I mean, again, some of the shows that aren't shows, if you're casting spells through the land, I mean, like I said last time, watching these kids do that, or even these adults do that, that's a show in itself. Hogwarts does have a nighttime projection show that is seasonal. Right now, I don't want to say hit or miss because that's not the right term, but it's definitely not they had the projection going on last October, but it wasn't the same as it usually is. So just definitely check to see if that projection show is going on. But there's so much to do, just like in Diagon Alley, there's so much to do in Hogsmeade as well, too.
Well, and I think because we're coming up on fall and just a spooky time of year, I think the dark arts at Hogwarts Castle, that light projection show is one that I really want to see, because they also kind of cast this green light and fog throughout the park, and Death Eaters come out, and then they're casting spells throughout the park. So it's more than just the projection show. It's a little bit extra, and it just sounds like so much fun. I haven't experienced it yet, but it is on my list. I definitely want to make sure that we are there sometime during the dark arts at Hogwarts Castle.
Yep.
But yeah, they have several. I think they have a special holiday one as well. So yeah, just check the app to see what nights they are doing that projection show while you're there to make sure you catch it. Okay, guys, I know we talked about the interactive wands on the last episode, but I just want to touch base real quick and let everybody know who's listening, there is an Ollivanders in Hogsmeade as well. So you have 2 chances to actually get in to Ollivanders in Hogsmeade and Diagon Alley. The interactive wands are just awesome. It just adds to that experience. And the wands themselves are inspired character wand replicas of the characters in the books. So that also makes it kind of fun. Let's talk about the shops.
Yes, who doesn't like shopping?
Yes. The shops are so darn cute, aren't they? It's like an attraction in itself. So what are your favorite? What's your favorite shop, Sharon?
My favorite is the Outpost. So Of course, this is the shop where you can buy your stationery, your quills, your seals, ink, stamps. Of course, because it's the Owl Post, they also have the owl related toys and gifts. But what's really cool about the Owl Post is that you can also mail letters complete with a special Hogsmeade postmark. Now, I will say, for whatever reason, I have not done that part of the shop yet. And it is on my to-do list for the next time I go. I want to like maybe send myself a letter and have that special postmark that they can put on the letter. But I just find it's a cute little quaint store, and it just sort of fits the story very well.
I like that too. And yeah, at the Outpost, you can get the stationery and the quills and the ink and all that right there and get your Harry Potter themed stamps and send it off. I think that's super cute. I haven't done it either, but yeah, I'm going to.
Yep.
Jamie, what's your favorite shop?
Well, I'm going to steal yours, but Honeydukes.
No.
Same.
Right. My kids love
Candy.
it. So,
It's candy.
yes. The very first time we went, I don't know what we were thinking, but we turned our kids loose in there and said, "Oh, yeah, get something. It's fine. Like, that'll be your souvenir."
You ended up with 5
$50
chocolate
later.
frogs, didn't you?
Right. There's chocolate frogs. And then they wanted like the bags of candy where you can like combine candy. And then there's the butterbeer fudge in there. Like, there's just the theming in the store is amazing. So when we watched the movie the other night, we had some Birdie Bots beans in our pantry. So of course Anna runs to get the Birdie Bots beans, and I'm like, I'm not eating those. So good luck. But
Those are hard.
they were but yeah, so my kids love that store, but we learned quickly after the first trek in there that we have to set a very firm spending limit because it's really easy to go crazy in there.
It's the little kid in a candy store.
True.
That's my favorite. I have to get a chocolate frog every time I go. And I usually, I like the one in the Weasley's Wizard I can never say that. In Diagon Alley, but I always end up purchasing my chocolate frog from Honeydukes. So it just feels.
Have you tried the little mint frogs?
No, I don't like mint.
Oh,
little
I
mint.
have not tried those.
Oh, you don't like mint? Oh, they're
Mm.
so good. So I'm a mint person. When I was pregnant with my kids, I ate more mint than I can even begin to explain to any of you. But there were these little mint frogs. They're in a blue package in Honeydukes. Those are totally worth buying. So just a little
Now,
FYI.
do you guys eat your chocolate frogs on the Hogwarts Express?
No.
They may escape. Why would you do that? No.
I'm like, well, usually it's in the hotel when I'm starving. I'm just have it in my mouth.
Oh my gosh. After a long day of walking around the parks.
Do you keep
Right.
the card though? You know, the cards that come
Yes.
with those. Do you keep those? Like, I mean, that's really the important
Yes.
question,
That's your souvenir. Yes.
That's right.
You got to.
That's right.
You got
You can eat the frog, but you have to keep
Right.
the card.
Right.
So yeah, Honeydukes is my favorite too. Primarily for the aesthetic. I'm a visual person, and this shop is just the right kind of whimsy and beauty and candy combined. And this is also where I bought my first pumpkin juice. So it has a little bit of a memory for me as well. All right, guys. So listen, Jamie has been to Hogsmeade and Universal Hollywood in California. So Jamie, tell us about that and how it compares to Hogsmeade in Universal Orlando.
So actually just last month, my son and I, Bo and I, went to Universal Hollywood and we did the VIP tour there, which I highly recommend. We actually just recorded our podcast that'll go live at some point here about that experience, but it was really a lot of fun. We had a great time. But since we're just focusing on Hogsmeade in this, that is the only part that is at Universal Hollywood. So Universal Hollywood only has Hogsmeade. There's not the Hogwarts Express. There's not Diagon Alley. See, I said it funny, like I'm going to go up the flu. But anyway, sorry, I'm weird. It's all good.
You're going to end up in Nocturne Alley.
Yep. It's all good. It's all good. But so there's only Hogsmeade, and it is very, very similar to what is at Islands of Adventure. It is a smaller footprint, but you can't really tell because of the way that they have it laid out. The view of the castle is a little different. The castle's set up a little bit higher, but the same 2 rides are there. So it only has the Forbidden Journey, which is in the castle, and it has the castle queue. And then it has Flight of the Hippogriff. And those are the same rides. The movement within Forbidden Journey is a little bit different. Universal Hollywood is kind of in the Hollywood Hills, so it is on a hill. So it's kind of positioned a little bit differently as you go through, but otherwise it is exactly the same. The stores, the layout, the setup, it's exactly the same. It's just quite a bit smaller. So if you are a big Harry Potter fan, I definitely recommend Universal Orlando. There's definitely a lot more there. You're just going to get a little taste of it at Universal Hollywood. But if you live close, if you're on the West Coast, it's still nice. Bo and I still enjoyed our butterbeers, which, #priorities. But I mean, it's definitely not nearly as extensive or immersive as Universal Orlando. So that's basically my Cliff Notes version, but basically the same thing, a little bit smaller, a little bit different, but the same.
Nice. All right, guys, I think that's going to wrap up our At the Core segment, and we're just going to jump right to the Crushed It segment. For this week, my Crushed It item is a lanyard, basically, and I like to get Hogwarts House or just like a Harry Potter themed lanyard or Hogwarts House lanyard. If you and your group are in different houses, you can represent. That's always a lot of fun. But the reason why you want to have a lanyard with you is because if you have a park-to-park ticket, you're going to have to show it. You present it as you enter the train station in order to board the Hogwarts Express. They're going to scan it. Same thing with your Express Pass. You're going to need to have that every time you get on a ride to be able to skip the line and get into that Express Pass lane. So one of the easiest ways to do that is have that lanyard and put your tickets right there in the little pouch. And so it's right there. You've got it. You don't have to go digging your pockets, your purse, etc. To get your ticket out, you just scan it and go. We wore one when we went. We got our own lanyards, actually, when we did the VIP tour. So if you're doing a VIP tour, you don't have to bring your own lanyards. They're going to give you one. That's one of the perks. So definitely recommend getting a lanyard. I'm going to say, how many pineapple rings on a lanyard? I guess 5.
At Universal, 5. Absolutely.
Right.
I can't imagine not having a lanyard, especially if you're staying at one of the premier resorts that offers Express Pass. Like if you had to pull out your wallet or something like that every time to show your room key, like that would just get a little old. So having that lanyard is great. And on the rides, you can just stuff it down your shirt if you're on one of the roller coasters and just go. Like you.
Yeah. When we did that tour and we were skipping lines left and right, my gosh, it was so nice to just have that scan and walk right through. You don't even have to think about it.
Yes.
Yep. I agree.
That's the end. So thank you guys for joining us today as we discuss the Wizarding World of Harry Potter in Universal Orlando Resort and Universal Hollywood. If you missed part 1 of this podcast, be sure to listen to that as well. Let us know in the comments what your favorite parts of the Wizarding World are. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
We hope you've enjoyed today's episode of the Travel Tidbits podcast hosted by Pineapple Escapes. Travel makes life sweeter. Let the experts help you plan a vacation with lasting memories. We'd love to help you plan your next vacation and have you join our community. You can find us on the web at www.pineappleescapes.com and on Facebook and Instagram at Pineapple Escapes.